So this is class 109 in the Golden Doves. We are on page 62. We're about to finally study why the word freedom in the title, freedom, language, and negativity. So here goes. Freedom is the sense of a totally unmotivated act transcending the realm of causality, right? So when you talk about freedom, we mean, it's not like, for example, if I take this tile and I hit it on that tile, the second tile moves. The second tile didn't move as an act of freedom, it moved as an act of causality, namely the energy was transferred, or some of the energy was transferred from this tile to the next tile, causing it to move. That's not freedom. Rather, it's an unmotivated act transcending causality. So this idea of freedom is basic to Judaism at both the ethical and cosmological levels. Ethical, that's human being, meaning I am free not to do bad. I may have an urge to do bad. I may have a certain anger at someone, and maybe I want to hurt that person. But the Torah says, Lo tekom, velo tetoret bnei amecha. So I'm free, and I choose to exercise my freedom by not acting upon the impulse to be angry, right, and to take revenge. That's at the ethical level. At the cosmological level, it's God. Nothing motivated God or caused God to create. When I say motivated, what I mean is, rather, there was nothing external to God that impelled him to create. Similarly, freedom is the ground of semiology. So to have a semiological system where you have signs representing things external to those signs, that's also based on freedom. And I spoke about this in my previous classes, right? The classes that I gave by the Sea of Cortez, I spoke about the arbitrary nature. Today I'm not by the Sea of Cortez, but I'm in a beautiful place, and the weather is just magnificent again. So we spoke about the arbitrary nature of the arbitrary relationship between signs and the signifiers, let's call it, and the things that the signifiers signify, right? So the arbitrary nature of the word cat, an actual cat, right? So Seir delineated the arbitrary character of the sign. Unmotivated. It has no natural connection with the signified, right? So tree, there's no natural connection between the word or the sound tree, right, and the actual tree. The word es is just as good, right? Right, I already said beracha. This arbitrariness makes signification possible precisely because of the arbitrary nature of the relationship between signifier and signified. Is there even a possibility of signification? Signs carry signification through their differences, and arbitrary and differential are two correlative qualities. Only through the conscious opposition and relative position to one another can signs acquire value and signification. That's a pretty simple sentence, so I'm just going to go on. I'm kidding. It's actually kind of difficult. All right. Signs carry signification through their differences. For example, red light, yellow light, green light, right? What is it about red that means stop? And what is it about green that means go? It's arbitrary. It could have been the other way around. So what gives the red light significance? And the answer is, it's different than the yellow light, and it's different than the green light, and I recognize it as different. And in recognize how red is different than all the other lights, I understand red means stop, right? So that signs carry signification through their differences and arbitrary and differential are two correlative qualities. So precisely because it's the difference between the signs that allows for signification or meaning, that's what makes it arbitrary. You see, because the same way red is different than green and yellow, purple is different than green and yellow, and pink is different than green and yellow. It could have been pink, green, and yellow just as easily as red, green, and yellow. What's important is the difference between the red on the one side and the yellow and the green on the other side. It's that difference that gives the, so you see how this is the relation between different and arbitrary, right? Arbitrary and differential are two correlative qualities. Only through the conscious opposition, it's a conscious opposition, meaning it's not that there's a metaphysical red, it's I perceive red differently than I perceive green, right? It's a conscious opposition. I decided that red is going to be in opposition to green. I perceive them differently, and I've placed them in opposition to each other. That's arbitrary, but that's exactly what gives it the meaning. Right, and that's how they acquire value and signification. There's a footnote here. Let's see if there's anything in the footnote additional to the text. So let's see, that was footnote 13. Let's find the footnote. Give me a moment, and I will do this. Let's see, for page 62, footnote 13. No, it's just quoting. All right, it gives you the citation. Accordingly, there is a tension between semiology and being as an ontological entity determined by absolute metaphysical or natural necessity. So you have semiology on the one side, where words signify things, and the words, the language structure, is a arbitrary, and B, they exist, the signs exist in opposition to each other, and it's that opposition that gives meaning. Meaning, there's nothing intrinsic about the color red that means stop, right? That is an opposition. That's Jewish thinking. That's an opposition to Greek thinking, metaphysical thinking, where beingness, things just exist, and the existence of things is independent. Everything has an independent existence, meaning the leaf on that tree doesn't exist relative to the branch. It just exists. There's a leaf. In semiological or Jewish thinking, there's a holistic relationship between the different parts of the tree. There's that leaf, there's another leaf, and there's a branch, and through the branch the leaf can live because the branch gives it, I guess, nutrients, and the leaf has the green color so it can absorb sort of an energy from the sun, right? And so on, photosynthesis, yep. So in Greek metaphysical thinking, beingness as an ontological entity, ontological means the existence of things. Ontological means how the thing, so to speak, perceives its own existence, meaning the existence of a thing from the perspective of that thing, right? Right, so that's real beingness, right? It just exists. So this leaf exists independent of me, independent of the tree, independent of me seeing it. I see it as green. Maybe if my eyes were different, I wouldn't see it as green, right? So is there really a green leaf there? Maybe it's a particular wavelength that my eyes can perceive that makes it green, right? So you understand, no, but in metaphysical thinking, that is a green leaf. Accordingly, sign and ontology are mutually exclusive. So sign means I can speak of the dog, or I can speak of the leaf. Let's go back to the leaf. I can speak of the leaf by using the word leaf. But the word leaf is not the real leaf. Well, that's the idea of semiology. But in Greek thinking, I don't want the word leaf. The word leaf, okay, it's important. You have to speak the word. But the word disappears, and then I get access to the real leaf, right? So the word is kind of an encumbrance. It's a necessary evil to get to the actual leaf on the tree, right? So that's why sign and ontology are mutually exclusive. The latter is, right, in Greek thinking, things just exist unto themselves. In order to signify, a thing must lose its necessary character. Whereas when you turn the actual leaf into the sign, the word leaf, or in Hebrew the word aleh, right? You're losing the actual real existence, okay? Because it's arbitrary. That's the point. Why are you losing the actual? Because the word aleh is one word for leaf, and the word leaf is another word for leaf. So you see that there's an arbitrariness, right? So we don't believe in actual existence, the real existence independent of everything else, right? Rather, we believe in different perceptions, and there's a freedom how to perceive, and there's the freedom how to structure the existence of the leaf relative to other things, and there's a freedom what signs I use to express what objects. Footnote 14. Contrary to the view of David Font Roland Barthes, there can be no process by which an object becomes a sign or vice versa. Right? Okay, that's right. So they tried to extend Greek metaphysical thinking, and they said that language, where the formation of signs is a process where the real object somehow transforms into the symbol. Right? Again, that's an extension or an imposition of Greek metaphysics upon language, which is a type of kilayim, shatnez. Before a thing becomes a sign and signifies, it must shed its ontological dimension, right? So first of all, the minute you want to signify something through language, you must get rid of the independent existence of that object, because now that object is not going to exist independently. It's going to be in my mind, and it's going to be transformed by my mind into speech. Creation ex nihilo implies not only design, but also intentionality in its semiological sense, rather than intention in the teleological sense, which is metaphysical. I think this is a good place to stop, because we've already done some really intense ideas. And before I go to the next sentence, so now you know how human language works, and how language or semiology is one way of viewing the world, where things have relationships to each other, right? And the existence of things is in opposition. So the structure is, again, red light, green light, yellow light, right? They exist in opposition to each other. The red light is significant because it is none of the other colors, right? And therefore I recognize it, but therefore it's also arbitrary. So words are arbitrary signs to describe the world around us. But in describing the world around us with these words, we're structuring the world as well. And we're putting things in opposition to each other. So I decided that the leaf is in opposition to the branch, because I have words to describe the leaf and the branch, and those words are different. And maybe there are other words. Maybe there's the little branch that the leaf is on. Maybe it's called the twig, right? So I have the twig and the branch and the leaf, right? And the tree. So you see how the language structures the way I perceive things. So my perception, right, is structured by the language, which is arbitrary. We could have structured it differently. Perhaps you can't even imagine how could we have structured the tree differently. Well, you can't imagine it because your mind is organized in accordance with your language, right? So that's the idea of arbitrariness in the way we structure the world, and the way we view the world, as opposed to Greek thinking where things actually exist. No, the leaf exists, and it's not because I have the word leaf that I have the idea leaf, or rather there is a leaf, right? Or there's an idea of love. There is a real idea of love. There is that ideal of love existing out there, right? As opposed to love being very nuanced feelings between people, other people, perhaps things, right? So language structures our feelings and emotions as well, right? So that's at the realm of the arbitrariness of language and the arbitrariness of the way we structure the world. But now we're going to deal with God and the creation of the world.